72 names, 72 spirits, the hidden code of power. In every ancient kingdom, power was never just about armies or gold. It was about secrets, and few held more secrets than King Solomon. Solomon, son of David and king of Israel, was no ordinary monarch. He was not just wise, he was mystical. His understanding of the world reached beyond politics, religion, and trade. Deep in the hidden chambers of his mind and spirit, Solomon unlocked what many believe to be the greatest esoteric mystery of his time: the 72 names of God and their connection to 72 spiritual forces, what some call spirits, others call angels, and a few dare to call demons. These 72 names are not names in the traditional sense. They are made up of combinations of Hebrew letters, derived from 3 verses in the book of Exodus 14:19-21. When these verses are placed together in a particular way, they form 72 triplets, 3-letter sequences that are considered sacred codes. Each of these codes is believed to correspond to a spiritual energy or intelligence. But how did Solomon discover this, and why were these names so important? Legend says that Solomon was given a magical ring, often called the Seal of Solomon. This ring gave him the power to command spirits. Not just any spirits, but the 72 major spiritual entities that govern different aspects of reality: healing, war, weather, wealth, wisdom, and even destruction. These spirits were like elemental forces of nature, and Solomon, with his ring and sacred knowledge, was their master. According to ancient texts, including the Testament of Solomon, the king used these spirits to build the first temple in Jerusalem. He didn't use only human labor. The spirits under his command helped move stones, shape materials, and construct a temple that was more than just a building. It was a spiritual portal. These 72 spirits were each associated with one of the 72 names of God. Solomon didn't control them through force but through knowledge. He understood their nature. Each spirit responded to a specific vibrational frequency, a divine code that came from the name it was tied to. By chanting or meditating on that code, Solomon could summon and speak to these entities. The idea of the 72 spirits isn't just in Jewish tradition. Later grimoires, like the Lemegeton or the Lesser Key of Solomon, list these entities as demons. They were called the 72 Goetia spirits. Each one had a name, a seal, a domain, and specific powers. But were they really demons? Or were they misunderstood forces of nature? Beings who could do both good and bad depending on how they were treated. Solomon didn't label them as evil. He saw them as tools. Just like fire can cook your food or burn your house, these spirits could be destructive or helpful. What mattered was the intention and clarity of the one who summoned them. Many modern spiritual practitioners use the 72 names of God as meditative tools. Each name is said to unlock a different spiritual vibration. One for healing, one for overcoming fear, one for attracting abundance, and so on. These names are not spoken but visualized or chanted internally, connecting the soul to higher dimensions. But here's where the real power lies. The 72 names are not just ancient passwords to spirits. They are keys to understanding the inner architecture of the human soul. Each name mirrors a state of consciousness. By meditating on them, one doesn't just attract external help, one transforms from within. Solomon knew that. He wasn't just summoning beings, he was evolving spiritually. Today, the 72 names are found in Kabbalistic teachings, spiritual meditation practices, and esoteric schools. But most people never go beyond the surface. They treat these names as magic spells. Solomon, however, saw them as bridges between the physical and spiritual, between the known and the unknown. Why 72? It's a sacred number. In Jewish mysticism, 72 is linked to mercy and divine grace. In astrology, the sky is divided into 360 degrees, and each of the 72 spirits rules over 5 degrees. Even in Egyptian and Sumerian lore, we find the number 72 linked to celestial gods. It seems to echo through all ancient knowledge systems. Solomon didn't invent the 72 names or spirits. He uncovered them. He aligned himself with them. He meditated, prayed, fasted, and studied until the secrets of the universe opened to him. He saw the pattern, the divine design behind all things, and then, with the discipline of a sage and the vision of a king, he brought that knowledge into action. The 72 names and 72 spirits remain one of the most mysterious and powerful systems in esoteric tradition. It's not just about power over spirits. It's about harmony with the deeper layers of existence. Solomon's legacy is not just in his temples or proverbs. It's in the codes he left behind, waiting for those wise enough to seek. The name that cannot be spoken, but Solomon knew it. There is a name so powerful, so sacred, that even the high priests whispered it only once a year. But Solomon didn't whisper it. He knew it. In ancient times, names were more than just labels. They carried vibration, essence, and authority. To know the true name of a being was to hold influence over it. And to know the true name of the Creator, that was to touch divine fire itself. Hidden within the spiritual teachings of Israel is the concept of the Shem HaMeforash, the explicit name of God. This name was not just holy, it was dangerously powerful. It was believed to unlock the gates of heaven, command angels, silence demons, heal the sick, and even bend time. Solomon, through his deep spiritual discipline and divine favor, was said to have known this name. The Torah never reveals this name openly. Instead, it uses placeholders, Elohim, Adonai, El Shaddai. But there is a deeper name, one so charged with divine energy that speaking it carelessly could bring death or illumination. Some say it had 42 letters, others say 72. A few claim it was composed of fire, light, and vibration beyond human comprehension. Solomon did not simply stumble upon this name, he earned it. Through prayer, meditation, fasting, and a life dedicated to wisdom and service, he raised his consciousness. His heart became pure, his mind clear, and in that state of purity, the divine revealed itself to him, not through words, but through sacred knowing. This name, according to Kabbalistic tradition, is not just a name, it's a frequency, a code, a living intelligence. When Solomon used it, he didn't merely speak it, he channeled it. He became a vessel, and the divine flowed through him. It is said that with this name, Solomon could speak the language of animals, command winds, unlock the secrets of nature, and travel between dimensions. His wisdom wasn't just from study, it came from direct communion with the source. Knowing the unspeakable name aligned him with the heart of creation. Some stories suggest that the Ark of the Covenant held this name within it, written on a tablet of sapphire. Others say it was guarded by angels in the Holy of Holies. But Solomon, he carried it in his soul. Why couldn't others speak it? Because to say the name without purity was to invite chaos. The name could not be used for pride, manipulation, or gain. It was not magic, it was alignment. Only one whose heart beat in harmony with divine will could carry it safely. There's a story in Jewish mysticism that a group of students once tried to reconstruct the name by combining letters from the Torah. When they succeeded, they began to use it to perform miracles. But their pride grew, and one by one, they were destroyed, not by punishment, but by the name's raw holiness. They weren't ready. Solomon was. He didn't use the name for show. He used it for healing, justice, and divine work. When spirits resisted, he didn't threaten them. He invoked the sacred name. It wasn't fear that made them obey. It was recognition. The spirits saw the divine signature and bowed. In every esoteric tradition, from the Jewish Kabbalah to the Christian Gnostics to the Islamic Sufis, the idea of a hidden name of God appears. It's always protected, always guarded. And yet, there are hints that Solomon held the full revelation. Even today, spiritual seekers search for this name, not to control, but to connect. The path to this name is the same as Solomon's: humility, devotion, wisdom, and purity. You cannot steal this name, you become worthy of it. So when we speak of Solomon's power, we often think of wealth, wisdom, or magic. But his real power, it was knowing the unspeakable, not just with his mouth, but with his being, and through that knowledge, he bridged heaven and earth. Did Solomon learn from angels or demons? The wisdom of Solomon was legendary, but where did it come from? Was it divinely inspired, or did it come from darker forces? The story of Solomon is full of contradictions. On one hand, he built the temple of God and wrote proverbs filled with divine insight. On the other, ancient texts say he spoke to spirits, bound demons, and summoned entities that many today would fear. So the question arises, did Solomon learn from angels or from demons? Let's begin with the angels. According to ancient Jewish and Islamic texts, Solomon was beloved by God. When he asked for wisdom instead of wealth or power, God granted him not only wisdom but dominion over the spiritual realm. Angels came to him in visions. They whispered secrets of creation, medicine, and the stars. They taught him how the universe works, from the movement of the heavens to the nature of the human heart. It's said that Solomon could speak the language of birds, a gift believed to come only from angels. He knew the names of the archangels, their functions, and how to call upon them for protection, guidance, and healing. He wasn't just a king, he was a divine messenger. But then there's the other side. The Testament of Solomon, an ancient text attributed to the king, tells a very different story. In it, Solomon is given a ring by the archangel Michael. This ring allows him to control demons, 72 of them. Each one has a name, a job, and a weakness. Solomon questions them, learns their secrets, and commands them to work for the good of Israel. These spirits reveal how they cause disease, madness, and chaos, but they also explain how they can be banished. Solomon uses this knowledge to heal his people and build his temple. But here's the twist. He learns from them. He doesn't just control them. He listens, understands, and even respects their nature. This raises a deep question. Was Solomon simply using these beings, or was he in dialogue with them? In ancient esoteric tradition, demons are not always evil. They are misunderstood forces, powerful, chaotic, but not necessarily wicked. They represent aspects of ourselves: pride, anger, desire, fear. By facing these forces, Solomon was not just ruling spirits, he was mastering himself. The duality is clear. Angels teach divine wisdom, demons teach the shadow. Solomon learned from both. And maybe that's the secret of true wisdom, not choosing one side, but understanding both. Angels represent order, demons represent chaos. Solomon stood in the center, the balance point. He didn't reject the dark, he transformed it. This idea echoes in Hermeticism, Kabbalah, and Gnostic thought. True mastery comes from integrating light and shadow, not denying either. Solomon, the wisest of kings, walked this razor's edge. Of course, this scared many people. Later traditions tried to erase or demonize this side of Solomon. They wanted a clean saint, not a spiritual alchemist. But the real Solomon was more complex and more powerful. Today, spiritual seekers walk a similar path. They meditate with angels, but also face their inner demons. They invoke light, but also heal darkness. Solomon's story reminds us that both realms have something to teach. So did Solomon learn from angels or demons? The answer is both, and that's what made him truly wise. The Testament of Solomon: interviewing demons, not exorcising them. What if the wisest man in history didn't cast demons out, but invited them in for conversation? The Testament of Solomon is one of the most bizarre and fascinating esoteric texts in history. Unlike traditional stories that cast demons solely as foes to be banished, this mysterious document depicts King Solomon as a master interrogator, not an exorcist. He doesn't simply repel dark forces, he questions them, learns from them, and then bends their powers to his will. This isn't just a tale of conquest, it's a spiritual manual hidden in allegory, pointing toward hidden sciences, psychological archetypes, and metaphysical truths. The narrative opens with Solomon receiving a magical ring from the archangel Michael, engraved with the seal of God. With this ring, Solomon gains dominion over demons, not to destroy them, but to command and compel them to speak. Each demon is summoned, questioned, and then forced to contribute labor toward the building of the temple. But deeper than their forced servitude is the knowledge Solomon extracts from them. Each demon describes their name, the constellation they fall under, the ailments or emotions they cause in humans, and most importantly, how they may be overcome. This sounds strange by modern religious standards, but it reflects a very different kind of wisdom. Solomon's actions mirror an alchemical principle. To transform, you must first understand. The ancient art of spiritual mastery does not always involve the destruction of darkness, but often its integration through knowledge. In the Testament, demons are not external monsters. They are symbolic of human weakness, fear, illness, vice, and temptation. Solomon's real power lies in confronting these energies, naming them, and binding them with intention. The demons in the text aren't just arbitrary inventions. Many are drawn from ancient Mesopotamian and Greek belief systems, blended into a kind of occult taxonomy. One demon, Ornias, confesses to strangling children and feeding on their souls, but he also reveals the astrological timing of his powers. Another demon, Asmodeus, known from later Talmudic and Christian traditions, details his influence over lust and destruction of marriage. Solomon doesn't flinch. He extracts names, planetary alignments, and counterspells. Each confession adds to his arsenal of hidden knowledge. This idea that you can learn from the shadow is at the heart of esoteric practice. Solomon, in this interpretation, becomes less of a biblical monarch and more of a spiritual scientist, cataloging the inner universe as one would study stars or herbs. His temple, then, is not merely an architectural feat, but a metaphor for the perfected human soul, built not just by angels, but by demons who have been understood and repurposed. What makes this even more profound is the shift it demands in our thinking. We often try to banish what we fear, but Solomon listens. The demons become his builders. The darkness becomes stone. This is not exorcism in the usual sense. It is alchemy of the psyche. He interviews the unwanted parts of reality and of the self, extracting their secrets. The text also contains sections where the demons mention specific herbs, prayers, and symbols that can be used to control or banish them. This reinforces the notion that knowledge is power, but not blind knowledge. The type Solomon seeks is experiential. He wants to hear from the source. He wants to understand not only what threatens humans, but why it does so. What desire, what imbalance, what spiritual weakness creates a doorway for each force. In this sense, the Testament becomes a shadow grimoire, a psychological map disguised as a list of demonic traits. The ring Solomon uses is not just a magical object. It is a metaphor for authority rooted in divine clarity. The seal upon it represents the union of opposites, light and dark, male and female, spirit and matter. With it, Solomon becomes a mediator between heaven and hell. He does not banish the demonic, he transcends it. Yet the text is not without warnings. Eventually, Solomon himself becomes prideful. He falls in love with a foreign woman, sacrifices to her gods, and loses control. The ring is lost, the demons rebel, the temple crumbles. Here the narrative shifts, implying that wisdom is only stable when grounded in humility. One must know the shadow, but not serve it. This fall mirrors the inner alchemical process, the danger of ego's corruption even after great illumination. For modern readers, the Testament offers more than myth. It is a blueprint for inner transformation. Each demon can be seen as an aspect of the unconscious, the parts of ourselves we deny or repress. Solomon's method teaches us not to fear these parts, but to confront and name them. Naming in mystical traditions gives power. To call something by its true name is to define its limits and summon its pattern. So this strange ancient manuscript may hold one of the most important spiritual lessons. You do not defeat your demons by pretending they aren't real. You sit with them, you ask their names, and only then do you command them to build your temple.